Hi, I'm Laura Gingras.
Hi, I'm Ted McGreer.
I'm Alan Stroshine, and we are
Better Together.
As the Monadnock United Way General Campaign chairs.
We are proud to bring you the keynote panel discussion for Monadnock United Way's Better Together campaign kickoff.
Thanks, Alan. Through the Monadnock United Way, this community comes together annually to raise funds needed to support critical services for children, education, and financial stability in every community throughout our region. During this COVID pandemic, our partners and not-for-profits across the region are doing double duty. Together, they are making this community better by providing relief to individuals and families, as well as delivering critical services every day to keep our region vibrant.
You know, the number one question that donors ask us is, where is the greatest need right now? Prior to the pandemic, we could answer that question with annual information provided by our partners, professional studies, long-term trends. In the world of COVID-19, our region's needs are changing moment by moment, and our partners are responding as quickly as the changes are happening.
So to answer that question as best we can, today's panelists will provide you with their insights and expertise on the current needs, how our region's nonprofits are responding, and why your support is critical to their success in the vibrancy of this community, why we are all better together. This lively and informative discussion is moderated by Nikki Sauber, Project Manager, Behavioral Health Improvement Institute at Keene State College and former employee of Monadnock United Way. Take it away, Nikki.
Go ahead, Nikki.
Thank you, Laura, Ted, and Alan. My name is Nikki Sauber. I will be your moderator for today's panel. It's for Monadnock United Way's Better Together campaign, and I am so thrilled to be here with Dan Smith, Craig Henderson, and Melissa Gallagher, who are here representing some of our region's most important nonprofits and services. I was a former Monadnock United Way employee and have the privilege of working with some of these folks around measuring and communicating our impact across the community. These days I'm doing evaluation work with Keene State College, but it's such a treat to be back here with these folks. So enough about me. I'd love to hear them introduce themselves. So I'm going to go across our windows here. We'll start with Craig and then go to Dan and Melissa, and I'll have each of them say their name, their title, the organization that they're with, and also the Monadnock United Way funded collective that they're participating in. I'd also like them to list the other members of the collective that you're participating in. All right, so Craig, you can go first, and then Dan, and then Melissa.
Thank you for the introduction, Nikki. I appreciate it. My name is Craig Henderson. I am the Director of Housing Stabilization Services for Southwestern Community Services. I am part of the Cheshire County Emergency Housing Collaborative and the other collaborative entities with Southwestern Community Services is 100 Nights and Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention.
Hi, Nikki, thank you. I'm Dan Smith, the CEO of the Keene Family YMCA, and we're a part of the Monadnock Region After School Collective, and that includes partners of Access Winchester, Hinsdale After School, Project Keep, Project Adventure Marlborough, ACES 93, and Hillsborough Deering.
Hi, thanks, Nikki. I'm Melissa Gallagher. I'm Executive Director of the Grapevine Family and Community Resource Center located in Antrim. And I am also, the Grapevine is also a member of the collective known as Monadnock Alliance for Families. And along with the Grapevine, members of that collective are the River Center, Rise for Baby and Family, Monadnock Family Services, and HCS.
Great, thank you all. The impact that you have in this community and the partners that you work with are so big. No wonder it's hard to get all of their names out. It's a big mouthful, right? So let's paint a broad picture here. The world has changed dramatically this year and affected people in our community in really unexpected ways. So starting at the 40,000 foot level, Help me paint a picture for our audience about how people in our community are faring right now. So I'll start with Melissa. You and your organization and the Monadnock Alliance for Families Collective supports families throughout their parenting journey. What are the biggest challenges that children and their families are facing right now from your perspective? Oh, you're muted, I think.
Oops, sorry. Since the pandemic hit, I would say one of the biggest challenges for parents was, this sudden thrust into having their kids at home around the clock, being unable to engage in normal activities, and of course, the months of online schooling, which created a lot of stress in the home. We've had parents reaching out for support and strategies on managing challenging behavior, getting help for mental health and anxiety for children and frankly themselves. And I would say that single parents and kinship and grandfamilies have been especially impacted. Right now, parents and caregivers are feeling angst and fear and uncertainty about the pandemic and school and whatever form of schooling is happening for them. A lot of parents are worried about whether they're making the right choice, or maybe they feel forced to make a certain kind of choice that they're not comfortable with because of work demands or keeping their job. And they're doing this while trying to pay attention to their kids' mental health as well as their own. We know that low-income families and those who already have significant stressors in their lives are particularly at risk. They're trying to figure out how to meet basic family needs like food, housing, and utilities while balancing everything else. For some parents, it's like this, as we've heard, this catch-22 of, I can't get a job or keep my job until I secure childcare, and I can't get childcare without a job. It's a lot for anyone to manage, let alone families who are financially struggling or dealing with other issues that are impacting their health and well-being.
Wow, thank you, Melissa. That's a really powerful insight, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. So Dan, let's build on this a little bit. The Keene Family YMCA has the unique perspective of providing both childcare and after-school programming. So from your perspective, what are the greatest challenges facing these two services?
Yeah, we've been offering those traditionally for years now. And we're one of the largest child care providers in the area. And with the onset of the pandemic, that immediately transformed the services that we could provide were affected by group size. And so we had to cut back on the number of kids that we could serve based on square footage and keeping social distancing and so on. And we needed to prioritize essential workers. That created a great deal of transitional stress for the kids that were temporarily evicted by that process from our program, and obviously for the families in that experienced that. As Melissa noted, the stress that created for families at home. How do I care for my child versus how do I work, and the choices that had to be made. As we've returned to an open status, we've brought more and more of those kids back, but ratios have still been limited and affecting how we can offer and how many we can offer. And it's been complicated also by staffing needs. Early childhood, preschool age brackets, it has been notoriously difficult nationwide and in our area to recruit the staffing needed given the wage points that we can offer based on the price points that families can afford for childcare. And so that's been a continuous struggle. And for the last month and a half now, we've foreseen that as we enter into the school year, the hybrid school models that many of our schools in our area are using is setting our community up for another urgent tsunami of childcare need. Now I have to choose between, trying to stay home 3 days a week to care for my child, and how do I do that? And that model gets exasperated when you realize that our teachers are experiencing that difficulty too. And so if teachers make the choice to stay home, we suddenly have a deficiency in the quality of education that our schools are able to offer. And so that affects every kid in the community, and it's not limited to financial restrictions that way. Our typical after-school care programs are also hindered by now lack of transportation and operating restrictions on how we can just be a hangout spot for kids after school, because we can no longer be that under the current conditions of operation. So as a why, we're looking at how to respond to that need, and we will be announcing here shortly a hybrid school model, school-age childcare for kids in kindergarten through grade 6. It's going to come with financial challenges to the families, as we expect that cost for 5 days a week care between the school and our program of being around $185 a child per week. And you know, that's going to make some families have to question, am I working so that I can pay for childcare? You know, maybe it's time for me to stay home anyway. Our ability to respond to that, I have space and capacities now where I could provide up to 150 kids with that kind of care, but I only have staff enough currently to respond to about 30. And we've been trying to recruit the staff needed to meet that need. And that again speaks to the price points that are there and the limiting in wages, and also just the general fear that the community has about returning to work. So we're fighting a lot of different dynamics to try to respond to the emerging need that our community sees.
Wow, Dan, thank you. Between your facilities, your employees, and all the families that you serve, it sounds like a lot of things to consider all at once. And big order to fulfill. So Craig, let's move on to you. I'd love to hear how, as a member of the Cheshire County Emergency Housing Collaborative, how is the pandemic affecting the financial stability, particularly as it relates to housing of people in the Monadnock region? I think you're muted.
Thank you. The folks that we serve were already, so to speak, disadvantaged, and the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated that to a point where what was hard for our folks to find housing is now, you know, almost to the point where it's impossible. In Cheshire County, we have a 1.9% vacancy rate. Most of our clients have significantly decreased income. In fact, most of the adults, a significant portion, have no income when they enter the shelters. So between a low vacancy rate and less than adequate amount of income to pay for rent, most of the folks find themselves rent burdened. And so we're finding that it's hard for folks to move out of the shelter. We're finding that we're having to utilize our rapid rehousing programs more for the folks that are in the collaborative, the Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention and 100 Nights, which is what we should do. But it's challenging that you have this money that you're trying to give away and help your neighbors to get out of shelters, and you can't find housing. And so a lot of our folks are challenged by transportation, as was an issue with Dan's folks that he serves. And so, you know, available units often are in the outskirts of Keene and the outer towns of Keene. And so the units that would be perfect for housing those folks are often not obtainable by them because they need to stay local. And by local, that is literally within a mile of services, whether it's Monadnock Family Services, the hospital, or any other type of counseling or other service they may have.
Well, it sounds like all of these different challenges are certainly overlapping, intersecting, and connected, obviously, to the pandemic and to the bigger drivers of change or of challenges in our communities, the underlying causes of poverty and homelessness and all of those things. So it's a lot to handle on a day-to-day. So you've given us an layout of some of the challenges that we're facing. And now let's look towards the solutions here, or how you're responding in any case. So now that we have a better understanding of the needs of the community, especially in today's day and age with this pandemic, it would be helpful for our audience to hear how each of your organizations and the members of your collective are responding to the challenges that you just talked about. So if you're okay with it, we can go in the same order. And Melissa, go for it. Let us know how the Grapevine and your collective are responding.
Sure, right. So as the Grapevine and Monadnock Alliance for Families, honestly, in many ways, it's been business as usual since March. Our facilities were partially or fully shut down for a period of time, but we all sort of, in our own ways, quickly found creative solutions to stay connected with our families. We were able to move our parent and kinship support and home visiting programs very quickly to a remote format. We've used video, phone, and outdoor space to continue one-to-one parent and home visiting supports. And in some ways, I would say it's opened the door. There's a little bit of a silver lining here for people who were isolated and hesitant to reach out in person. I'm talking about people who maybe struggle with anxiety or other mental health challenges where you know, that initial thought of a face-to-face interaction was really hard, but really opening ourselves up more to video and phone communication has allowed people to reach out in new and different ways. And with additional support through Monadnock United Way's COVID Relief Fund, we've been able to offer direct, concrete supports for families in the form of grocery, gas, and phone gift cards. We've been able to pay emergency bills, which has provided relief to a lot of families in our region. The Grapevine itself, are now finding ways for the fall to reconvene face-to-face by staying outdoors and socially distanced. And you know, this is in response to what we've heard from a lot of families, is that they're really eager to reconnect and find that, you know, that face-to-face connection again. So we're trying to do more of that while staying safe.
Great, Melissa. Sounds like your collective is able to meet families where they're at, whether that's virtually or in person, and provide some emergency services that probably make a huge difference in their lives. Thank you. Dan, love to hear how the Y is, you talked a little bit about how the Y is responding to some of its challenges regarding spacing capacity. What else can you share about Y's response to the pandemic?
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. So our response to the pandemic is obviously ongoing and still unfolding. And so while some of our programming has been hindered by it, we've also been able to launch additional strategies. So in the early stages of the pandemic, when our preschool kids were sent home, we launched virtual programming of all kinds to interact with those kids. And some of our teachers would get their classrooms on Zoom and, you know, read stories to them or assign an art and craft or that kind of a thing for them to do, and just try to keep them engaged and keep their mental health and their development going. We've on the school age programming, a lot of that initially stopped, and so we looked for ways to re-engage that. And we have a youth coalition that the YMCA participates with that has launched some website activities and some Zoom meetings with kids that focuses on prevention and of vaping and drug and alcohol use. And so some of the kids have participated in that. And that's resulted in, you're going to be hearing a commercial airing soon, a radio commercial produced by those kids in the virtual youth group that was formed through that collaborative effort. And so we're excited by that. And so through the summer, we abridged the way we offered summer camps so that, again, we could have small groupings of kids that stayed COVID safe. And we pushed those summer camps to be a day camp experience that's primarily based outside the Y's walls, again, just trying to keep it safe. And we did that in a structure that we knew was mission-based, because we knew it would not pay for itself and you know, cost money. to run it. And we were thankful for the United Way's support of our childcare efforts and the summer camp efforts, some staff funding and some support for some of the cleaning machines that we needed to make our spaces safe. And so, you know, as we continue to look forward, we're following very much the mantra of the United Way, that we really need to be united in our way of responding to this crisis. And so we've reached out to locations in our community that are going to give us spaces. And so Next Level Church, Church of the Nazarene, and Elm City Church, Jonathan Daniels School, all of those have offered up spaces for our emergency school-age childcare response to try to partner with us in that effort to make sure it can be off. And so those are just some of the things that we're doing as we look now to the fall. We're also starting to talk about what after-school programming can we bring back in a safe way that kids can engage, because we've recognized that throughout the community, some of the assets that were in place for that are not able to function right now. And so we do hope in the next few weeks to offer some clubs or programs that kids can sign up for, and if they can make their way to the Y, be able to participate in.
Definitely sounds like a variety of strategies involving all levels of the community to make it work week by week. And I can imagine that you're sharing and learning amongst the collective and other after school programs across the region supports that growth and that adaptation, that flexibility. Very nice. And Craig, now I'd love to hear from you. How is the Cheshire County Emergency Housing Collaborative responding to the wide variety of challenges that you laid out before?
Yeah, so our primary mission is to keep people safely housed when the weather's below 0 or above 100. And it's very difficult in COVID-19 because our folks, by the nature of where they have to stay, they can't socially distance themselves. And so, you know, we really focused on cleaning efforts. We focused on reorganizing our shelters. We have now set up satellite decompression sites. We have a duplex in Claremont, and we also have 2 buildings now in Keene, a duplex in Keene and a triplex. We'll be taking over the 3rd unit probably pretty soon. But it's a very difficult dynamic because your shelters are what they are. You know, you only have so much room in these shelters, and you want to still serve the same capacity that your community needs you to serve. And so our first response was to double down on cleaning, make sure that folks knew about the threat of COVID-19. We also did a diversion where we were trying to move people out as quickly as we could. We were using funds in a more flexible way to get them to live with relatives, to get them security deposits faster. I think what COVID-19 did was maybe like really allow us to evaluate our process and say, do we really have to take that extra step? Do we really have to file that one more piece of paper? I mean, we flew out more than $70,000 worth of the COVID relief funds from the Monadnock United Way in under a month. It was absolutely incredible. But you know, Monadnock United Way gave us that flexibility. We were paying for hotels for Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention. Again, security deposits, short-term rent. So our goal, the second goal, was to just decompress our units themselves, to actually move people along so that we did not have too many people in one area causing a health situation. And then after that, we slowly moved into the decompression sites, which honestly took far longer than I ever thought. But we actually have a good group of landlords in Keene and in Cheshire County, and we managed to, literally with a handshake, they were willing to rent their whole apartment buildings to us, knowing who we serve and what we do. And I think that the one thing that COVID-19 did was it put us all kind of on a same playing field. You know, we all wake up with a bit of anxiety and frustration, and not knowing what's going to happen. And so we've seen a lot of landlords who may have given us pushback, even with our prevention funds or our rapid rehousing, actually say, yeah, we'll do that. We will take this client of yours in and with a handshake again, just a 5-minute meeting with them, and we'll rent them an apartment. So, well, the vacancy rate is pretty low in Cheshire County. I think the fact that people are more empathetic, I think that people want to be part of bringing our community back together has helped us to set the tone and move us forward. We do have the decompression sites all worked out now, and so we're moving forward.
It's a heartwarming community response to a suboptimal situation, right? So it's clear that your organizations, your collectives, and other nonprofits in our region have flexed and adapted virtually overnight, many of them, and you continue to provide essential services while responding specifically to the pandemic. And that's a really tall order, and our community is stronger because of you and your staff and all the great work that you do. So thank you, thank you. And so thinking about this year's campaign theme, and you've done it a little bit about thinking about living united, the united way. This year's campaign theme is about being better together. And I'd like you to reflect, how is your relationship with Monadnock United Way and your collectives, that relationship with other like-minded nonprofits, other similarly mission nonprofits, how has that helped you and your organizations respond to the pandemic and all the challenges that our community faces right now? And in short, how have you found or felt that you're better together? And let's mix it up. I'll start with Craig. Go for it.
So I appreciated Monadnock United Way because of the flexibility. The agency changed things up just as quick as we needed to change things up to respond to COVID-19. The collective is working better because we're all communicating with each other about, because we're all serving homeless people, you know, and it's like no one is competing to serve the most. And so as a collaborative, we've come together where they're communicating with me, maybe the prevention people that I have in the Housing Stabilization Services, to let people know who needs help. The one thing that I appreciate about Monadnock United Way funding is that typical pots of money, it's like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife, right? We get a lot of funding and it'll say, but this can only be used here. This can only be used here. And then you end up having a situation where you don't need that pot of money for that. And the Monadnock United Way funds, they really help fill the voids where there could be a loss of service for people that really need the help, but they just don't fit in that small niche that's going on with their lives.
Thank you, Craig. That's a great perspective. And Melissa, how would you say that we're better together during this pandemic and as a community?
Yeah, I cannot say enough about the collective that we're a part of and how it's improved our work. You know, from the way we communicate and share information to how we have just sort of shifted over time to this collective mindset of honestly being stronger when we approach things from that standpoint. You know, so instead of, for example, approaching outreach as this sort of singular activity, we're saying, let's go in and do this together. So imagine you're a local pediatrician and a couple of years back, you're getting in any given time frame 5 different requests to meet and hear from area providers who want to talk to you about what they're doing. And now we approach that together. And so we say, let's go in there together and talk to them about all of our services and how we're supporting families throughout this region. So you can imagine how much more effective that is and how much honestly more time efficient it is. You know, another success to share is that we joined, one of the partners in our collective is the River Center in Peterborough. About 18 months ago, as part of our work together, we decided to jointly hire a home visitor. We recognized that we both needed the same thing and would benefit from finding one person in common who not only could do the work across our shared region, but could also serve as a bridge between both of our organizations, which has in fact really happened. So as a result, things that have come from that are things like we've created a common referral form and a common intake process for new families so that there's more consistency across our system, if you will. And especially in light of COVID, to have the trust and respect and camaraderie that we can rely upon each other for ideas and creative solutions and help when we need it is really, really valuable.
Sounds like a powerful set of relationships that you formed through this collective and through United Way work. So thank you for sharing that. And Dan, last but most certainly not least, how would you say that we're better together?
Yeah, so as we've been through the COVID process here, the marathon that it's turning out to be, I've greatly appreciated the Better Together concept that the United Way has brought forward. Because one of the starting points was, if we think back to when everything was still just closing and the uncertainty of job security, program security, providing for our kids, their needs, their education, their emotional development. I mean, that was huge. And, our Monadnock Region After School Collective was there for my staff team that were working through that. And just having colleagues to lean on at a moment of uncertainty to remind you and affirm you that you're all in this together, and that the only way out of it is if we do it together, right? And if we all work together. And that, for my team that has been a part of this, that is the core value that they definitely saw and received from being a part of this United Way group. What we then began to value about it also was that collective was able to have insights to what we might encounter and what we might need as we respond to this. And at times when we were void of vision, they were able to provide us the direction we need so that we knew how to move through the room at that time. And that was enormously helpful in trying to figure out how do we ramp back up the childcare services that we provide in this environment and do that safely. And United Way's group was able to say, this is some of the ways you move in that, and able to name some of the things that we may be needing and didn't even realize. And finally, the collaborative communication that occurred, the way in which we could all brainstorm together, share ideas together, pass on resources to one another. All of that was also vital in recovering to the stage that we have. And it continues to be so. And so we're just so ever thankful for the way that the United Way stepped up to meet our voids and our depression moments more than ever.
Thank you so much, Dan. You all inspire me. The work that you do, the way that you're collaborating to meet urgent community needs right now, more urgent, some of them than ever before. So thank you all for being here, for doing what you do, and for sharing tonight about how you have all seen yourselves be better together. And I know that this pandemic isn't over yet, so good luck with all that comes down the road from now. It's a marathon, not a sprint, so be sure to take care of yourselves as well. And so to the audience, I would like to say that I hope you all enjoyed today's panel, and really got enough inspiration out of it, just like I did. If folks like these organizations like these are some of the reasons that I give to United Way myself. And so I hope you would consider donating to Monadnock United Way's Better Together campaign. Together, we must raise $1.277 million to support the important work of organizations like these and services across our community. So giving is easy. You can text MUW to 41444. You can visit MUW.org and click on that big old Donate Now button, or you can mail a check to Monadnock United Way, 23 Center Street, Keene, New Hampshire, 03431. And that wraps up our panel for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and take care.